No silêncio gelado e escuro de uma manhã de agosto de 2025, os céus sobre a região de Zaporizhzhia pareciam, à primeira vista, tranquilos. Abaixo, o terreno marcado pela guerra prendia o fôlego, uma quietude tensa pairando sobre as linhas de frente. Mas lá no alto, um único piloto ucraniano, de codinome Blue 117, estava prestes a escrever um novo capítulo na história da guerra aérea. Pilotando um MiG-29 Fulcrum fortemente modificado, do 114º Brigada de Aviação Tática, essa aeronave solitária tinha uma missão de risco imenso e, olha, de uma recompensa potencial ainda maior. A operação, mais tarde batizada de Horizonte em Queda, era uma prova da engenhosidade ucraniana e uma aposta ousada contra um alvo russo fortemente protegido e de valor incalculável. Essa missão não nasceu da pressa, mas sim de planejamento meticuloso e inteligência precisa. Por dias, as forças ucranianas monitoraram o deslocamento de um grande comboio militar russo, uma verdadeira serpente logística avançando em direção à linha de frente. O piloto, veterano de incontáveis surtidas, sabia exatamente o que estava em jogo. Um único erro, um momento de detecção precoce, significaria não só sua própria morte, mas também permitiria que esse ativo crítico do inimigo chegasse ao destino, fortalecendo as forças russas para uma nova ofensiva. O ar estava carregado de tensão, e o ronco dos motores do MiG-29 era um som solitário na vastidão escura do céu ucraniano. A escolha de um único MiG-29 para uma missão tão crítica refletia a realidade estratégica da Ucrânia, a necessidade de causar o máximo impacto com recursos limitados. Diferente de um bombardeio em larga escala, com várias aeronaves, que certamente seria detectado e interceptado, um voo solo oferecia a chance mais tênue de atravessar a densa rede de defesa aérea russa. Esse único jato, um verdadeiro relicário da era soviética, havia sido transformado em uma arma sofisticada, capaz de lançar munições ocidentais avançadas com precisão letal. Era um guerreiro híbrido, símbolo da resiliência ucraniana e da capacidade de superar disparidades tecnológicas com criatividade e coragem. Enquanto Blue 117 guiava sua aeronave rumo ao alvo, o mundo abaixo era um mosaico de sombras e luzes tênues, quase adormecidas. O piloto estava completamente só, um ponto de intenção focada em meio ao pano de fundo de um conflito continental. O plano era audacioso: localizar, desabilitar e aniquilar um comboio no valor de dezenas de milhões de libras em um ataque cirúrgico que duraria apenas alguns minutos. O sucesso dessa operação dependia inteiramente dele, da confiabilidade de seu caça modificado e do elemento de surpresa total e absoluta. A calmaria antes do amanhecer estava prestes a ser quebrada da forma mais espetacular possível. A primeira fase da Operação Horizonte em Queda começou exatamente às 3h52 da manhã, horário UTC, quando Blue 117 entrou na zona de reconhecimento designada. O segredo para sobreviver e ter sucesso era a furtividade. Em vez de usar o radar ativo, que denunciaria sua presença para todos os sensores russos na região, o piloto optou por um modo totalmente passivo. Voando a uma altitude de 6.400 metros, ele confiou nos sensores ópticos e infravermelhos avançados da aeronave para vasculhar o solo abaixo. Assim, ele se tornou um fantasma na máquina, um observador silencioso caçando sua presa sem emitir nenhum sinal eletrônico que pudesse entregar sua posição. Dessa posição elevada, o piloto examinava minuciosamente o corredor Bologod, uma rota conhecida de trânsito de material militar russo. Os sensores infravermelhos eram especialmente cruciais, projetados para detectar as sutis assinaturas térmicas dos motores dos veículos contra o chão frio. Era um processo exaustivo, quase como procurar uma agulha no palheiro, só que a muitos quilômetros de distância. A calma do piloto escondia o perigo extremo da situação. Ele voava bem dentro do alcance dos sistemas de defesa aérea russos, e qualquer descuido, por menor que fosse, poderia ser fatal. Seus instrumentos eram seus únicos olhos naquela escuridão opressiva. De repente, um lampejo de atividade na tela. Um sistema russo Pantsir S-2, provavelmente em patrulha de rotina ou alertado por alguma anomalia, lançou 2 mísseis na escuridão. O treinamento do piloto falou mais alto. Sem se desesperar, ele executou uma série de manobras evasivas pré-planejadas, puxando o MiG-29 para uma curva fechada e intensa, levando a fuselagem ao limite. Os mísseis, sem um travamento sólido de radar, passaram zunindo pela aeronave e explodiram inofensivamente no céu vazio. Blue 117 havia passado por sua primeira prova, escapando da detecção e da destruição por um fio, sua presença ainda secreta para as forças no solo. Sem se abalar com o susto, o piloto continuou sua busca silenciosa. Poucos minutos depois, a persistência foi recompensada. Uma longa e distinta assinatura térmica apareceu na tela. Uma serpente de calor serpenteando por quase 800 metros. Era o comboio. Usando os sensores ópticos, ele aproximou a imagem, confirmando a composição dos alvos. Media Group. Zoomed in Thermal View of Artillery Vehicles. Optical Sensor Footage of Military Convoy at Night Stock Distribute Equally. Fileiras de artilharia autopropulsada, grupos de veículos logísticos e, no coração do comboio, um caminhão de comando e um veículo de guerra eletrônica distinto. Ele havia encontrado. A caçada silenciosa chegava ao fim. O momento do ataque estava se aproximando. O comboio que Blue 117 tinha em sua mira não era uma simples missão de abastecimento. Era um ativo estratégico de valor imenso, estimado em mais de 66 milhões de libras, ou seja, cerca de 83 milhões de dólares. Não se tratava só de um monte de caminhões, mas sim de um punho móvel de poder de combate e suporte logístico. No núcleo desse comboio estavam 14 obuseiros autopropulsados PL-05, peças de artilharia capazes de disparar com força devastadora a grandes distâncias. Essas armas, sozinhas, poderiam mudar o rumo dos combates locais, dando às tropas russas uma vantagem considerável. O objetivo principal do comboio era entregar esse poder de fogo avassalador a um trecho crítico da linha de frente. Protegendo essa carga valiosa havia um sistema de defesa sofisticado, em camadas. O componente mais importante era um veículo móvel de guerra eletrônica, um bloqueador de alta tecnologia projetado para criar uma bolha eletrônica com 40 km de raio. Esse sistema podia cegar mísseis inimigos, atrapalhar sinais de GPS e cortar as comunicações entre aeronaves ucranianas e seus controladores em terra. Era, na prática, um escudo invisível que tornava o comboio um alvo endurecido, aparentemente imune a munições guiadas modernas. Os russos confiavam que, dentro dessa fortaleza eletrônica, seus ativos estavam seguros de ataques de precisão. Junto à artilharia e ao guardião eletrônico, havia 22 veículos logísticos, o sangue vital de qualquer formação militar. Esses caminhões transportavam munição para os obuseiros, combustível para manter a coluna em movimento e outros suprimentos essenciais. A destruição deles não só impediria o uso da artilharia, mas também criaria um pesadelo logístico para o comando russo, causando um efeito dominó que prejudicaria as operações por semanas. Também estava presente um caminhão de comando móvel, o cérebro da operação, coordenando os movimentos e defesas do comboio. Destruí-lo significaria decapitar a formação, deixando-a sem liderança e desorientada. A concentração de ativos de alto valor em um só lugar tornava o comboio, ao mesmo tempo, uma ferramenta poderosa e um alvo tentador. Sua formação longa e linear, eficiente para o deslocamento, era também sua maior vulnerabilidade, caso suas defesas fossem rompidas. Os comandantes russos, confiantes no poder do escudo de guerra eletrônica e na proteção da noite, apostaram ao mover tanto equipamento valioso junto. Eles não faziam ideia de que, lá no alto, um piloto solitário acabava de mapear cada componente crítico de sua fortaleza móvel e se preparava para desmontá-la, peça por peça. Section 4. Breaking the Shield. The HARM Missile Strike. With the target identified and its defenses mapped, Blue 117 initiated the attack phase at 4:21 UTC. The first and most critical objective was to eliminate the electronic warfare vehicle that shielded the entire convoy. To achieve this, the pilot had the perfect tool for the job: 2 AGM-88E Advanced Anti-Radiation Missiles, better known as HARM. These specialized weapons are designed not to strike a specific set of coordinates, but to home in on the source of enemy radio and radar emissions. The very thing that was meant to protect the convoy, its electronic jamming signal, was about to become its undoing. The pilot put his MiG-29 into a shallow dive, accelerating to build up kinetic energy for the missile launch. This maneuver also helped in briefly unmasking his position to bait the Russian EW system into broadcasting at full power, providing a stronger signal for the HARM missiles to lock onto. At the opportune moment, he fired the first missile. The AGM-88E detached from the wing pylon and ignited its rocket motor, streaking through the dark sky on a column of fire. It flew a high arcing trajectory, its seeker head scanning the electromagnetic spectrum, hunting for the powerful emissions from the Russian jammer below. The crew of the Russian EW vehicle would have had only seconds of warning, if any at all. The HARM missile is incredibly fast, traveling at over twice the speed of sound. Before any effective countermeasure could be deployed, the missile slammed directly into the electronic warfare truck, erupting in a massive explosion that instantly vaporized the vehicle and its crew. The protective 40-kilometer electronic bubble that had enveloped the convoy vanished in an instant. The shield was broken. The pilot, without missing a beat, launched the second HARM missile to ensure the primary threat was completely neutralized, and to target any secondary emitters that might have activated. With the electronic defenses shattered, the convoy was suddenly deaf, dumb, and blind. Its communication links were severed, and its protection against guided weapons was gone. The remaining vehicles were now exposed and vulnerable, their crews likely thrown into a state of panic and confusion by the sudden, violent explosion at the heart of their formation. Blue 117 had successfully executed the most difficult part of his mission. He had kicked down the door. Now, with the convoy naked and defenseless, it was time to deliver the killing blow. Section 5. Death from Above. The JDAM-ER Barrage. Immediately following the successful HARM strike at precisely 4:35 UTC, Blue 117 executed the second part of his devastating attack. With the convoy's electronic shield gone, the path was clear for weapons that relied on GPS guidance. The pilot released his main payload, several GBU-62 Joint Direct Attack munition, extended range bombs. These are not simple dumb bombs. They are marvels of modern military engineering. Each one is a standard Mk-82 bomb fitted with a tail kit containing a GPS and inertial navigation system, along with a set of wings that deploy upon release. The extended range part of the JDAM-ER is what makes it so effective. The pop-out wings allow the bomb to glide for significant distances, turning it from a simple falling object into a precision-guided glider. Launched from an altitude of over 6,000 meters, these bombs could travel up to 80 kilometers to their targets. This standoff capability was crucial, as it allowed Blue 117 to release his payload from a relatively safe distance, well outside the range of any remaining short-range air defenses that might have survived the initial chaos. He did not need to fly directly over the convoy, drastically reducing the risk to himself and his aircraft. Before the mission, each JDAM-ER had been programmed with the GPS coordinates of a specific high-value target within the convoy. As the bombs detached from the MiG-29, their wings deployed and their guidance systems came to life, steering them silently towards their pre-assigned destinations. Several bombs were targeted at the front and rear of the column, aiming to trap the vehicles in the middle. Others were aimed directly at the clusters of PL-Z05 howitzers and the central command truck. The result was a perfectly coordinated, near-simultaneous series of impacts designed to cause maximum destruction and chaos. On the ground, the effect was apocalyptic. One moment, the Russian soldiers were reeling from the HARM strike. The next, the sky began to rain down silent, guided death. Massive explosions ripped through the convoy from multiple directions at once. The lead and rear vehicles were obliterated, blocking any chance of escape. Howitzers were tossed into the air like toys. Ammunition trucks erupted in spectacular secondary explosions that chained from one vehicle to the next, and the command truck was reduced to a flaming wreck. The precision strike had turned the organized column into a paralyzed, burning junkyard in less than a minute. Section 6. Chaos and Confusion. The Russian response. The Russian reaction to the devastating attack was a mixture of panic, disbelief, and systemic failure. With their command vehicle destroyed and their electronic warfare shield shattered, the surviving elements of the convoy were left leaderless and disoriented. The immediate response from local Russian air assets was frantic but ineffective. An attempt was made to scramble a Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter to intercept the attacker or at least assess the situation. However, the helicopter's sensors and communications were severely hampered by the residual electromagnetic interference created by the HARM missile impacts, rendering it virtually blind. Meanwhile, the Russian Air Command, now aware that a major incident was unfolding, dispatched an Il-20M intelligence and reconnaissance aircraft to the area. Its mission was to get a clear picture of the damage and locate the enemy aircraft responsible. But the Il-20M crew quickly discovered a bizarre and unexpected problem. The HARM strikes had created a temporary blind corridor in their sensor coverage, an 11-kilometer-wide swathe of electronic chaos, where their surveillance equipment simply could not function. The Ukrainian attack had not only destroyed its target, but had also blinded the enemy's ability to see what had happened. By the time a Su-34 fighter bomber was scrambled and sent to the area, with the objective of restoring air dominance, it was far too late. Blue 117, his munitions expended, had already disengaged and was speeding back towards the safety of Ukrainian-controlled airspace. The Su-34 arrived to find a scene of utter carnage, a burning 800-meter-long stretch of road littered with the smoldering wreckage of dozens of high-value military vehicles. There was no enemy to engage, no battle to be fought. The ghost had vanished, leaving only destruction in its wake. The entire Russian response was a textbook example of being caught completely flat-footed. Their over-reliance on a single point of defense, the EW vehicle, had created a critical vulnerability that the Ukrainians had exploited with ruthless efficiency. The confusion caused by the HARM strike, coupled with the speed and precision of the JDAM-ER follow-up, meant that by the time the Russian military even began to understand what was happening, the engagement was already over. The attacker was gone, the convoy was a total loss, and the Russian command was left scrambling for answers in the dark. Section 7. The Aftermath, a Strategic Masterstroke. When the sun finally rose over the Zaporizhzhia region, it illuminated a scene of complete and utter devastation. The once mighty Russian convoy, valued at over £66 million, was now a smoldering graveyard of twisted metal. All 14 PL-05 howitzers were destroyed, their potential impact on the battlefield nullified before they could fire a single shot. The logistics vehicles and their precious cargo of ammunition and fuel were gone, creating a gaping hole in the Russian supply chain. The loss was not just financial. It was a significant strategic blow that would have immediate and lasting consequences for Russian operations in the area. The destruction of the convoy forced the Russian military to rethink its entire logistical strategy in the region. Commanders could no longer feel safe moving high-value assets in large, concentrated groups, even under the perceived protection of electronic warfare systems. They were now compelled to use alternative routes that were often longer, less direct, and more exposed to Ukrainian artillery and drone attacks. This slowed down the pace of their operations, increased fuel consumption, and stretched their already strained logistics to the breaking point. The single 3-minute attack had created a ripple effect of delays and costs that would be felt for months. For Ukraine, the success of Operation Falling Horizon was a monumental victory. It demonstrated that even when outnumbered and outgunned, a combination of clever tactics, technological adaptation, and pilot skill could achieve results disproportionate to the resources used. The mission showcased the remarkable success of integrating Western munitions onto Soviet-era aircraft, a feat of engineering that gave the Ukrainian Air Force a potent precision strike capability. It was a powerful message to their allies that the weapons provided were being used with devastating effectiveness, and a stark warning to their enemies that nowhere was truly safe. Ultimately, the attack was a masterstroke of asymmetrical warfare. It highlighted a shift in Ukrainian strategy towards a more focused, surgical approach, using limited high-tech munitions to eliminate key enemy assets, rather than engaging in costly battles of attrition. By targeting logistics, command centers, and air defenses, Ukraine could cripple the Russian war machine from within. The lone flight of Blue 117 was more than just a successful combat sortie. It was a symbol of a nation's unyielding will to innovate, adapt, and fight for its freedom against overwhelming odds, proving that precision and courage could indeed triumph over brute force.